One of my favorite things to do is people watch. That sounds really weird. And it's not just any old people watching, it's human movement watching. So I love watching sports. I don't really care what sport it is. Predominantly like basketball, soccer, that kind of thing. Tennis as well. I don't mind watching tennis, but it's by far, I follow the NBA and that's my thing. But I also like watching normal people go about their normal lives and how they move. I love watching how people walk. I love watching their feet. Do they collapse in? Do they not collapse in? Do they have rotation of the shoulders when they walk? Some people are really rigid. Some people have weird kind of valgus knee when they walk. Some people are really overweight, so that changes their gait. They kind of waddle left to right. I take all of these things, and it's really interesting to me. For some of you guys that work with me and are listening to this, you will know that I've walked up to many people in emergency and I've asked them, can you squat ATG? Can you squat ass to grass without lifting your heels off the ground? Can you maintain a flat back? A lot of people can't, but then some people have surprised me and they do it to perfection. A lot of these people are Asian. A lot of these guys, they're just masters of the squat. And I've said to many people in the past, out of all the people that I've seen, out of all the people that have asked this question, Asians outperform everyone else. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's their stature, the way they're built, femur ratios and all that stuff. Probably has a large part. But then you see people who are 6'3", 6'4", long ass legs, long arms, long everything. And you ask them to do that and they do it exactly like the Asians. Perfect upright posture. The knees travel over the toes. They have good ankle dorsiflexion. They have really good hip internal rotation. They have everything. And so for those people, I just automatically go, what the hell do you do? My next question is, what do you do for a living? A lot of these people, obviously, I know, what they do for a living. But then I start picking things apart. I've got a family member who rides bikes a lot, right? So he used to ride 150, 200 kilometers or whatever, like some crazy amount, like every week. And so then I'll be like, okay, I wish I had a bigger sample size of bike riders to see whether they have really good hip internal rotation, because they spend a lot of time on their unilateral kind of leg pushing all the time, even though it's not weight bearing. But as I'm kind of people watching, as I'm watching sports, as I'm watching people on YouTube, and I love doing this, just typing in squat and then going on shorts and then seeing people how they squat. Just lots and lots of different videos and me just observing them, how they move, what their stance is like, are they wearing heels, are they not wearing heels, what's the back angle, what do their femurs look like. All these types of things I just take in and in and in and in. I love it, because then I can take all of that information and relay it back to what I'm doing and what exercises I'm picking and what lifestyle I'm living, how much time I spend sitting and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of try and piece together the cause and effect. So I'm somebody that is not a natural squatter. As much as people will be surprised by that, the first time I tried to squat, I fell backwards and rolled backwards. So I'm a basketball player. That's what I spent basically all of my teenage years doing. Short ankles, really tight ankles, tight hips. I wasn't really into all of that until kind of 18, 19 years old. When I started going to the gym, I started paying attention to more mobility, flexibility, trying to kind of list all those attributes, and I was kind of more aware. Up until then, it was all kind of just team environment, team training, shoot the ball, dribble the ball, all that stuff. I wasn't really into athleticism. I didn't understand the process or what makes somebody athletic. I just knew, you run a lot, you jump a lot, you might do some weights and you become really athletic, or you're just gifted. But as I've kind of gone on into this barbell kind of business, I've kind of started to pick up differences in people. So the most frequent question that I get is, how do you get rid of butt wink? And the very next question is, how do you squat ATG? And so over time, I've kind of picked up patterns of what causes somebody or what prevents somebody to get into an ATG. And a lot of people will prematurely say, I've got hip impingement, or I feel a sharp pain in the hips, therefore it's a bone-on-bone relationship. I don't have the capacity to squat. And I've said this in the past, I believe 99% of the population does have the ability to squat ATG. It's just the soft tissue that's limiting us. It's not the bony tissue, the hard tissue. It's not that. As hard as that is for us to understand, if you took a skeleton, if you could somehow take your own damn skeleton, which is impossible, obviously, But if you've ever seen a skeleton in class in pathophysiology or anatomy, like, to scale, and you've taken that femur, you can pretty much shove that femur all the way, or the knee all the way to the damn shoulder. There's nothing limiting it. And then you start picturing adding on skin and fat and muscle and tendons and ligaments and all that stuff, and then you start seeing a decrease in that mobility. So I've always kind of been of the impression before you label yourself as somebody with a hip impingement, somebody with a really poor, neck or femur orientation, anteversion, retroversion, all that sort of stuff, before you do that, you need to aim for, something crazy, like aim for the splits. If you can do middle splits, if you can do the forward splits, if you can do that and you still can't squat and you still get the impingement, I understand. You probably have a really weird structure in your hip and that's limiting you. But most people, they say to me, oh, I've got hip impingement, or I can't squat ATG, it's not for me. When you ask them to do some basic freaking skills, like stand there and with a flat back go reach your toes, it's impossible. They can barely get to their knee. Or let me test your hip internal rotation, 0. Let me test your external rotation, hip external rotation, it's like 20%. It's like not existent mobility, and you can't tell me that that's because of bad hips, because your hips are just limited you in every single direction. It's impossible. So a lot of that time, I'm like, okay, so what do you do for a living? What did you do as a kid? Did you spend a lot of time sitting? Did you run? Did you stand? What sort of job you do? That kind of stuff. And then you start piecing it all together to see whether this person spends 99% of their life seated, and then when they go to the gym for that 30, 40 an hour gym session, they expect full ATG like the freaking Chinese. It's impossible. And I think that's a silly way to go about it. And so when I'm people watching, I'm always kind of like, what makes this guy or girl do that? Obviously, there's advantages and disadvantages to everyone. If you've got really long femurs, you're probably going to have extremely good hip internal rotation to reach ATG, and probably some degree of really good dorsiflexion of the ankle. But then, some of these boxes that we put people in, oh, you're tall, you're 6'5", therefore you can't squat. I've said this before, but there is a picture on Google. If you type in Rodman squat, I reckon it will pop up. You'll see Dennis Rodman on the court, ATG squat. And I'm talking about a freaking ATG squat. I remember doing this a year ago. It popped up somewhere when I was watching, and I was like, God damn, this dude is incredible. 6'8", 6'9" guy. I think it was around that. Maybe it was shorter, 6'7" or something like that. Full ATG squat. Man, you could put a barbell on him and that's a perfect squat. And so for all these guys who are telling me they've got long femurs, you ain't got longer femurs than Rodman. I guarantee you that. But what Rodman had was extreme flexibility. I remember him doing super kind of like ATG lunges, and I remember him doing, not full middle splits, but like really flexible middle split position. He was a flexible gym rat. He was a gym rat. That's what he was. He didn't really know how to play basketball in the sense of shooting and dribbling or whatever. But my God, could he rebound? My God, could he defend? He could do all that physical hustle kind of thing. So when I saw that, I was like, man, anybody can squat. That's kind of what I saw. But then you see guys who are like 5'5", 5'6", can't squat. And you're looking at me like, what's going on there, man? It's because we use chairs, toilets, cars, offices. We're always in that 90-degree depth. The ankle's 90 degrees, the knee is 90 degrees, the hip is 90 degrees, your elbow is 90 degrees. A lot of the time, your freaking neck is 90 degrees as well. It's just, everything is just inactive in 90 degrees. And then we ask those joints to go into extension and flexion and to load it. We load that stuff. We'll put a bar on your back, put your body weight on there, and I'll get you to squat. It's impossible. It's impossible. This is why I've kind of come up with this belief that before you start squatting, you need to kind of put your posterior chain on the map. Your glutes, your adductors, your hamstrings, they need to be long and strong. That's just to reverse all the shit that we just mentioned. The damn chair, the office, the car, the 90-degree depth. We need to reverse that. And the things on the back of us, the glutes, hamstrings, adductors, all of that, that needs to be strong and long for that knee to get to your chest. Because if that's all bound up and locked up, what's going to happen? You're going to borrow range of motion from other body parts, mainly your lower back. or your calves, right? So what happens is you have butt wink, right? Major butt wink, and then your heels come up. Why? Because the hamstring is pulling on the calf through fascia, and that glute, hamstring, all that kind of tie up, especially the glute, starts pulling on the lower back through fascia. That's what I've kind of worked out. And so things like good mornings, seated good mornings, RDLs, block pulls, rack pulls, anything that targets the posterior chain makes me squat better. It reverses the damn chair. That's what this stuff does. Today, I know I'm kind of handicapped with all this crap that's kind of going on with me. I'm handicapped, so I just went in and I thought, okay, let's spend a whole bunch of time just moving a damn barbell. That's what I did. I was really stiff today for whatever reason. Wasn't happy to move. Probably dehydrated. I don't know why. I didn't drink enough water yesterday. Just inflamed body. That's what I've got right now. So I spent basically an hour doing 10 sets of 20 good mornings. I did that over the space of an hour. Lots of breaks in between. It wasn't exerting myself. I was just trying to keep my heart rate down. Not interested in pericarditis if I've got corona and all that stuff. So taking it super easy. Did that. Went over to the cage, to the squat rack, to the power rack, and I loaded it up. Went up to 60 kilos. I was super warmed up by then, and it felt good. Went to squats. Squats felt really nice. Although very weak, but the mobility was there. And the whole time I'm thinking it's all about the hip, the posterior kind of lower back hip. When that is warmed up, when the fascia releases because you've got blood in all of those posterior chain muscles, everything starts to go. And so instead of us falsely thinking about we need to ambulate, we need to mobilize the damn Achilles, which is the strongest tendon in the body, why don't you, instead of doing that, why don't you try and mobilize the damn brick wall? Mobilize the damn brick wall, because those are the chances, same chances of mobilizing that brick as it is to Achilles. The Achilles is tough, man. You can't mobilize that. So all these people that are trying to stretch the calves and man, that stuff is made for thousands of reps, man. It is like fibrous tissue. The soleus, the Achilles, the gastroc is a little bit more explosive and whatever, but it's all bound up, and mobilizing that is just foolish. It's foolish. Yes, you can make a little bit of a difference, but it just goes back to square one the following day. That's my experience with mobilizing ankles. What's better though is mobilizing soft tissue, like softer tissue, hamstrings, adductors, glutes, lower back, all that stuff through hip hinging, essentially. That's my experience. If you got butt wink, it's probably related to your posterior chain, secondary to the damn chairs that you sit on. And coupled with that idea is also the psoas. The psoas is also weak as shit because when we sit, we don't sit like good girls. If you can picture your chest out, belly out, that's how we're supposed to sit. That engages the psoas. But a lot of us sit like gangsters, right? I've spoken about this before. We sit like all the way the front of the chair. We put our butt there, and then we roll our spines and pelvis all the way back to the chair. And so we're like fully a hollow body, but just flaccid hollow body, if you know what I mean. Like gangsters. When I sit on a couch, I don't sit like the couch is designed to. I sit freaking lounging back like I might as well have a bed there instead. But it's all bad for us. So knowing all of that, how we live in the 21st century, when you think about how to structure our workouts, how to reverse all that crap before we start building athleticism upon it. So posterior chain, especially if you're interested in doing full ATG squatting, if you're content with doing 90-degree squats like most of the population out there, then all you got to really do is just start squatting a parallel, because the damn chair and the car and the office and everything else is 90 degrees, so that's it. But then I would argue you'd probably get into some knee pain maybe and the rest of it because you are training half of the range of motion. Because if you think about what a squat is, an ATG squat, up to parallel, we're talking external hip rotation. So all your hip external rotators, all the glutes and all that stuff, that's externally rotating. But then when you get past the 90 degrees, now we're going to hip internal rotation territory. So the TFL, the adductors, all that kind of gets involved a lot more. So a lot of people are really strong in external rotation, but when it gets to internal rotation, they crumble. And this is where, it's another topic, but athleticism is about hip internal rotation. We spend most of our time on one leg when we are running, jumping, playing sport. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But basically, love watching people move. And I love taking that data and putting it in my own database and trying to make sense of why that person is moving the way they are. It's not because they have a skeleton, X, Y, and Z. It's probably because they have a lifestyle, X, Y, and Z. Yes, some people are anomalies and they can't freaking get into an ATG squat, but the majority of people can and should. But we first need to release some of that tissue that's fallen asleep thanks to the damn 90-degree death. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you to everyone in the comments in YouTube and Instagram. Appreciate all of you guys. A lot of these ideas, a lot of these inspirations that I get for these chats that I have on these videos comes from you guys. So I appreciate you guys. Love talking about this stuff. Love hearing your opinions about what I say. Just love the game, man. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.